Hey everybody, good to see you back again. All the parts I was waiting on for the carrier roller rebuild showed up yesterday. So let's dive right on into it. Last night I filled those wear grooves caused by the old seals with some JB Weld epoxy and let that set up and cure ever since. So some of the parts that showed up yesterday were the Speedy sleeves that I had on order to renew those sealing surfaces. Now that filler epoxy is just to give these a good backup surface to basically press onto. It's just going to add a little bit more support behind that thin wall sleeve, and then the seal will have a really excellent surface to write on. So what I'm going to try and do is the heat and expand method so that I could get these most of the way, hopefully, down these shafts before I really have to start hammering on them, because they're not really suited to be driven down a shaft that's that long. Usually the area you're putting them on is not much longer than what the sleeve is itself. So let's just see how that works out. All right, everybody, we abandoned Plan A a long time ago. We're currently on Plan B. It is unscientific, unmeasured, unprofessional, but as of yet, the Speedy sleeve is still undamaged. So we're just gonna keep going. I'll explain the process when I'm done, or when it breaks, whichever comes first. Okay, good news. I've got both of the sleeves installed, and at, well, around $50 a piece, it's nice not to make a mistake and have to start over again. So you can see I've already got the flange peeled off of that one. The flange is still intact here because a couple of people in the comments asked if I could kind of show this process because they never dealt with Speedy sleeves before. The concept is simple. You have an old worn surface, so they give you a thin wall sleeve sized appropriately with a flange on it for installation. You drive it on, then you peel the flange off, and you're left with a renewed surface that's not going to wreck your brand new seal. So they come in a kit like this. That's the driver cup, and you can see in my application it was not deep enough. That's why I had to use kind of my own home built, pieces with a long pipe and all that stuff. But you see here it shows the cup is placed over the sleeve. You drive it on with a hammer, and then once it's in place, you just slit that flange and peel it right off. It's pre-scored around the base so that it will peel well. And yeah, so my first approach was I threw one of these in the oven at 450 degrees, and that expanded it, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be quick enough or not to get it all the way down the shaft. Sure enough, I wasn't, because it got about halfway through that first bushing surface. There's no mass here to retain heat. As soon as it came in contact with this heavy shaft, it shrunk right back down, stuck fast. So that's why I ended up using that propane torch and just gently heated it a little bit and then drove it a little ways, repeat and repeat, until you finally get to where you need to be. So I'll finish up the install by peeling the flange off the bottom of this remaining one. Grease seal's going in now. Let me get you off this pole. So I decided to install them with the lip facing in. As you can see in the parts manual breakdown here, it shows the lip facing out. And they did that a lot to just let any excess grease to purge out from the inside in case you over-greased it and it wouldn't blow the seal. That lip would just fold up and it would all come out the backside. The trouble is, these original seals had a really good steel body around the lip protecting everything. Our more modern ones are pretty much open on this back side, and I could not find in my interchange manual one that was closed in on the back either. So to protect the seal and the spring, I'm going to reverse direction of them and just point all that stuff directly in. Fortunately, the Speedy sleeve trays are the perfect grease catcher for doing the pre-lube. So get the shaft and everything inside of the rollers good and lubed up before we even put anything together. Roller on next, just taking good enough care of the seal to prevent any damage. Next up is the thrust washer with the fold over lock and the 3 inside bolts. This washer, of course, keeps the roller on the shaft, so you've got the flange face of that outside bushing is going to thrust against this one side of the washer. Washer is bolted to the shaft, and then once we attach the cap, well, this inside portion of the cap thrusts against the outside portion of the thrust washer. That just captures everything in position. And now, because my brain doesn't work quite right, I need to take a minute. You all know fold over lock etiquette. Okay, it's my thing. And the last guy that was in, you can tell, I think he took like a chisel to this one and just started here crunching it down in a V shape between the bolts. That works, but it's really actually very easy on these just to pay attention to how you tighten the bolts in and just align the flats so that you're in line on this side, in line there as well. And what happens next is nirvana. This is the elusive trifold right here. Those 3 bolts are so caged in. Rest easy, citizen. They are not coming loose. Finally, we can cap it off. Tighten the bolts. And we're done. Get you all off the pole once again. Pair carrier rollers. Rebushed, speedy sleeved, new seals, fresh grease. I like it. All right, as long as we're this far, real quick, I want to take a minute to address why I'm not going to do anything about the prior buildup job that was done to these rollers. There's been a little bit of heartburn about it in the comment section. Not bad at all. Wondering if I'm going to add more weld and then turn them down to clean them up to make them look better. The answer is no, because really for a build-up job on undercarriage components, those are looking pretty darn good. I brought an example in from my parts stockpile that shows what you usually find on a roller buildup. This is a top carrier roller later series for D2, but they use this same technique on bottom rollers, on idlers. I've seen it on everything, and usually it's just a bead of some harder weld, hard facing weld that just zigzags back and forth all the way around in a circle, and that actually is not really a hack job. That's actually pretty standard practice when building up undercarriage components, because it's all about just, you know, increase the diameter and get some wear resistant material back on them with as much cost savings as possible. If you put too much effort into building one of these up, you've just basically could have bought a brand new piece. So that's honestly what I expect to find on built up components. And these, it looks like, being that we have a weld line here and one on the inside, you can see like a joint line weld right there. It looks like they welded a band of steel onto each one. And I don't know how hard it is, but I'm certainly not going to do anything with it. I mean, if I were to have built some of these up, mine probably would have come out looking very similar. And I mean, they've got good weld beads on them. So I don't know how long that's going to last, but I'm not going to touch them at all because, well, considering the 100 or so hours this tractor's going to have put on it for the rest of my life, I really doubt they're going to give me any problems. So unless they become a problem, I'm happy to leave them just the way they are. Now for the fun ones that go in from the inside here. This is my practice side. I don't know what I'm going to do yet when I get to the one that has the track in my way. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. I'll set you guys down here for a second. There we go. Got the nuts started on the inside. Just enough room to reach in right here. If I have to, I can always take the recoil spring off. Open it up a little more. Tight fit with the carrier on, but it goes. And it's already doing its job. It is carrying the track. So, all right, I looped this and pinned it. Now, this is not the master pin. This is that slip fit dummy pin. I put the spacers in the master link and just threw that together. So we're at least held in position. It gets that off the floor back there. We got rid of a tripping hazard, and I'm not going to start putting the permanent master pin in and hanging track pads on this side yet. Besides, you all are familiar with that process by this point. So, all right, this was the easy side to fit the carrier roller. Now we swap over to the other side where I've got 200 pounds of heavy track that's going to be right above where I need to be working, but I've got an idea. See that? Step number one, create the space you need to work. So we opened it right up for the mounting area for that carrier, arched the track up after we slacked it at the front. Plenty of room to get that double flange roller in here. We're not going to be fighting the rail. And I'll tell you what, yep, it pays to be dumb. I've finally found a use for that first epic fail bumper build attempt at a rolled piece of C-channel. Turns out it was the perfect arc to hold that track up. So just chained it off to the attachment points right there. Yeah, I might be dumb, but at least I'm dumb like a fox. as I retension the track now. The spec for tractors with carriers is, I would say, equal but opposite to what it is for tractors without carriers. So without carriers, you want to have 1.5 to 2 inches sag between the top of the idler to the top of the sprocket. Tractors with carriers, you want to be able to lift the track from 1.5 to 2 inches off the top of that roller, and that's proper tension for the track. And a couple people, as I get you all off the pole once again, have asked in the comment section over the last couple episodes, again, what are the benefits of having a track carrier roller? I, a few videos back, determined that we had in excess of 200 pounds just dead weight hanging from the top of the idler to the top of the sprocket. You put that in operation, it's going to bounce and dance around, and it just means there's a lot more pressure being applied to everything. So now that we have a carrier in the middle supporting all that weight, we just took a couple 100 pounds dead weight right out of the equation. So that means the idler is really only working from here around to about there now. Much less tension being applied to it to keep that track pulled out, to keep it tight enough. And that means a lot less stress on the entire tensioning assembly. The threads are going to live a lot longer. The recoil spring is under less pressure. And of course, the whole purpose of the recoil spring is that if something came along and got wedged like between the track and an idler, a roller, or sprocket tooth, that's going to compress a little bit and allow that object to make its way out, fall out again, and then it's going to spring back into place. So we've taken a few 100 pounds of preloading right off of that already. So that means your idler is going to move back and forth less. The blocks and the track frame channels are going to wear less. Basically, if you were buying a brand new D2 back in 1938 and you had $100 extra to put into any possible factory option, these track carriers are probably going to be your best investment. And there was one bulletin the Cat put out back in the day stating that they estimated in some scenarios these carrier rollers reduced overall undercarriage wear by about 30%. That's not insignificant by any means. Okay, everybody, this side is done. We've got the adjustment locked down, front guard is back in place, and one thing I like, you sight down the top of the track now. We don't have that sag. We've got the Caterpillar wave going on, the way it bumps up in the middle, then goes back down again. And once again, everybody from Floor and Tractor, big shout out. That was from y'all. I mean, I've said it before, I'll say it again, I could not have found a better match for this tractor than these absolute level 1 carrier rollers, and that just fits so well with the theme of all the rest of it, keeping everything just absolute where it started, first generation. Icing on the cake right there. Could not be happier with how all this turned out. So we've got a little bit of work left to do over here, finish putting the permanent master pin in, throw the rest of those track pads on, but you all have seen plenty of that by this point, so I'm not going to make you sit through all that on the tail end of this episode right here. Besides, I think it's a good place to cut it right now because next time I've got something kind of special planned. I want to see if I can get Senior out here to tell a story from his youth, and it's going to be the perfect segue into, well, making the name that I've picked for this tractor make perfect sense. That's right. Pretty soon it's not going to be known as 1113 anymore. I know what her name is. I've settled on it, and has something to do with some of Senior's adventures in the past. So just stay tuned for all that. So as always, thanks for watching, y'all. I'm going to start throwing this episode together, and hope to see you back next time. I've been waiting to make that episode for a while. I think it's going to be a good one.